Hello, how are you? My name is Matthew Phifer with Matt Phifer Coaching, and this is my YouTube channel. Make sure that you subscribe, hit the bell notification so you're notified each and every time I upload a new video. And on my channel, I help people who are in or healing from toxic relationships or a toxic environment, maybe a workplace environment, maybe a toxic ex, toxic family member. And people write into me, they send me an email, and I read through those emails, and I answer any questions that they might have. If you have a question for me, you want me to address it here on my YouTube channel, make sure you send it to justaskmatt@mattphifercoaching.com. Again, that is justaskmatt@mattphifercoaching.com. Just make sure that the email is 2 to 3 paragraphs max. Be very direct and to the point of what your question actually is. If it's longer than that, if it's 2-3 pages long, I can't get through all of it because, like I said, I do read the email right here on YouTube, and so if it's too long, I can't get through the entire email. And if you want my help personally, I have all sorts of links down below of different courses. I have a Toxic to Triumph community where people are able to participate in my podcast and ask me questions there and ask questions in my webinar, and they get discounts on courses and things of that nature. So make sure you check out all of those links down below as well. With that being said, let's get into this next email. So this email reads, "Good afternoon, Matt. Today's content was very helpful, and so for those of you who may not know, I go live every single day on TikTok and on Instagram and other platforms. So this person obviously follows me in other areas, and so if you want to follow me in other social media platforms, make sure you check down below as well. Even though I'm married, it is still important for my wife and I to date." Right? So in that live that this person participated in, we were obviously talking about dating, right, and continuing to reconnect. It was something that I talked about on this day. So even though the content was for singles, and a lot of times, even though I might be talking and I might say something towards singles, a lot of times there's things that might be good for couples as well, because I tell people that you need to, in a healthy relationship, even though I talk about toxic relationships, it's important, right, for us to begin to recognize what healthy relationships look like. So it's important that even though you're married or in a relationship, that you continue to date and you continue to reconnect. So that was something that we talked about this day. So even though the content was for singles, it was something she and I both appreciated. So thank you very much. I appreciate you guys listening and taking that to heart. I would like to keep these questions anonymous. We always keep all questions on here anonymous all the time. Even if sometimes people will send me with names, I just correct it and we just go along, but it is always anonymous. I'm still not comfortable talking about this in public. That's okay. I am understanding more and more that my experience isn't unique, even if it is unique to me. And this is the reason why I read these emails on YouTube. This is the reason why I have a Toxic to Triumph community that, once again, you can join down below, and there's a free 30-day trial when you connect down below. But quite often when you're dealing with a toxic situation, you think that it's just you. But when you start talking to other people, when you connect with a coach, when you connect with a therapist, all of a sudden you start to realize that there's a much bigger problem, that it's not just you, right? And so let's continue on with this email. Now for the questions. What can I do about the shame associated with the abuse and discard I went through, right? And so it's very common for people to feel shame, quite often guilt, whenever they go through a discard from a toxic or narcissistic person. I can't seem to get past this block. I'm extending understanding and forgiveness to myself, but the shame associated is a wall. I can't seem to scale through. I can't seem to scale or walk through. I feel like a subhuman, even with all of my accomplishments and good parts, and that's something that's very common. People will try to overachieve, to try to overcompensate for that shame and that guilt that they might feel. Right? Not realizing that there's a much deeper issue that they actually have to deal with, which we're going to get to here in a second. I just can't shake this. I am still keeping secrets for toxic people, and I feel a need to keep their secrets. That's going to be something important. We're going to circle back to that here in a second. The most concerning are to protect my younger siblings from repercussions from my mom and my brother. I also want to protect my family name/honor. The siblings I'm protecting with my silence are also ones that engaged in the scapegoating/abandonment. The discard from this was orchestrated masterfully by my mom. My younger brother, who wanted to be the eldest, helped later after he was welcomed back after his discard. This is another block. This is another block I could use insight for, please. Thank you for everything. Thank you for everything you are doing. It is helping heal leaps and bounds. So thank you very much for writing in. So I wanted to circle back to that sentence that you said. I am still keeping secrets for toxic people, and I feel the need to keep the secrets. So when we are feeling guilt and shame, right, we have to understand that what happens quite often when we're healing, right, and we start to feel this guilt and shame, we have to put the pieces back together. One of the things that I say quite often when we start, we talk about self-love so often. A large part of self-love is self-acceptance and also self-forgiveness. So let's talk about self-forgiveness for a second here. You're still participating in the toxic system, right? Quite often when we process our shame, right, when we start to realize that yes, no, the abuse was not our fault, right, but we have a responsibility to ourselves for our healing, we quite often might realize that, guess what, we may have participated, right? Some people, they may have participated in reactive abuse. Other people may have participated by enabling, right? It sounds like we're struggling with some enabling type of behavior, right? And so when we start talking about the fact that we're still participating, we're still enabling, and we're feeling this guilt and we're feeling this shame, we have to start talking about self-forgiveness. So let's talk about self-forgiveness for a second. What does it mean when we say self-forgiveness? Let's take it outside of ourself for a second, and let's bring it on to if someone else did you wrong, right? What would it take for you to forgive and for you to move on from what someone else has done? It would, before you even forgave them, you would need to see changed behavior from that person to even consider whether or not you're going to forgive that person. Well, the same thing applies when it's us, ourself. If we're going to forgive ourselves to get over, just like you said, you can't leap over this shame. You can't walk through it. The reason why you can't leap through it, you can't walk through it, is that you're still participating. You're still engaging in the behavior. It would be as if somebody was trying to forgive their significant other for cheating, but the person was still cheating. You would struggle with forgiving them when the behavior is still there. In this situation, the behavior is still here, right? So I don't know everything that's happening, right? And we would have to go deeper, because if we're protecting people, sometimes there might be a reason, right? But we have to understand that if we're going to get over the shame, and this is not inappropriate shame, this is actually something that we're actually engaging in. Guess what? The same way we would require changed behavior from somebody else, if we're going to forgive ourselves and get over and get through that shame that we're talking about, we also have to forgive ourselves, and the way that we forgive ourselves is through changed behavior. Because in a few years, in a few months, when you look back, right, if we don't, this shame is going to turn into resentment. You're going to feel like you've wasted time. You're going to feel like you could have done more. And so we have to begin to start changing some of the behavior. So I know there was another question that was in here as well. Let me get to that question real quick. The most concerning are to protect my younger siblings from my mom and my brother. And so in that situation, you have to understand that your brothers, depending on their age, need to start taking accountability. They have to, guess what? They have to start standing up to their mom. You enabling this behavior is actually encouraging and it's allowing for your brothers to stay in the situation, right? I don't know how old they are. It might require for you to intervene a third party, but either way, we still have to take a look at change behavior, right? Because internally we know that something is not right. So the second part of this email was second part of the question was, my younger brother who wanted to be the eldest helped later after he was back after the discard. This was another block I could use insight for. So kind of confused about the question. My younger brother who wanted to be the eldest helped later after he was welcomed back after the discard. So so this, I know that you mentioned that you wanted insight for this. We have to allow for people, right? I hear a lot of elements of control. This is something that a lot of people don't like discussing. The fact that people who struggle with codependency, guess what? They are also controlling. You may even feel somewhat betrayed at the fact that your brother went back to take the role of the eldest son. Your brother is allowed to feel and allowed to see things differently than what you have. That's okay. They're allowed to go back. They're allowed to see the mom and see your mom as this great queen or this great woman. That's okay. But we have to do what's best for ourselves, right? And so we still require some changed behavior from yourself to get through that, to get through those shame points that you're talking about. So thank you everyone for listening. Thank you very, very much for writing in. Once again, for those of you who want to write in to me, if you have questions for me, send it to justaskmatt@mattphifercoaching.com. Again, that is justaskmatt@mattphifercoaching.com. Keep the email 2 to 3 paragraphs max, being very direct and to the point of what your question actually is. If you would like to connect with me, I have several links down below with different social medias. I have courses. But the fastest and the best way to connect with me is through my membership, my Toxic to Triumph community. And so when you connect with that community, not only can you connect with me, you connect with my network, you can talk with myself, with other coaches through my podcast, you can talk to other members of the community, you get discounts on my courses, you also get free webinars, among other things. So thank you guys very much for connecting. Make sure you subscribe, make sure you hit that bell notification. Until then, I'll talk to you in the next video.